Want to know when it's time to stop bouncing on your birth ball at home and go to the hospital for your labor and delivery? In today's video, I'll be sharing with you 2 signs that you need to know to help put you at ease in knowing exactly when to head on over to the hospital. Welcome. I'm Yesenia Galvan, a health educator and perinatal health worker. I absolutely love talking about tips, advice, and product reviews on anything and everything from pregnancy to parenting. But if you're not a parent and you're just as interested in creating a more balanced and fulfilling lifestyle, then I invite you to subscribe to our channel, tap on the notification bell, and also join our community on our Facebook page. First things first, your labor is going to be made up of 2 stages. Your early labor and your active labor to help your cervix open up and thin out so that your baby can come on out. Today, I'll focus on the active labor part because that's where you want to be when you go to the hospital. So what are these 2 signs that are going to help us determine if we've gone through early labor at home and reached active labor so that we know it's time to go now? The first sign that can indicate that you've already either started your labor or already are in active labor is your water breaking. So for most women, this will happen when they're at the hospital already, but if you're not at the hospital and you think that your water has broken, you want to take note of 3 things. The first thing to note is how much fluid came out. Was it an uncontrollable slow trickle of fluid, or was it more of an uncontrollable big gush of water? Because even if it was a slow trickle, it can still mean that your water may have broken. The second thing to know is, when did this happen? Because the more time that passes since your water's broken, there's a higher risk that your baby can get an infection. The third thing you want to make note of is, what color was it? Did it smell? Was it clear? Was it odorless? Was it brown? Was it bloody? Is it green or yellow? Did it smell like urine? Because if so, then that doesn't mean your water broke. But was it maybe sweet smelling? All that will matter to your doctor because it could indicate several possibilities, one of them being that your baby pooed inside, and that was what happened with my little stinky booty. She pooed inside, and when my water ruptured, I was already at the hospital, but it looked brownish and yellowish, and that's how my doctor knew that she just needed to monitor me to make sure that my baby didn't aspirate that in, because then that poses another risk. So just make note of these 3 things. If you don't know and are still unsure whether your water broke, don't hesitate to call your doctor, because they can call you in, they can do a test to determine if in fact your water broke. So just try to make as many mental notes as you can of these 3 things and let them know when you call them. So talking about this, I'm actually quite curious to know. Comment down below if your water broke in your last pregnancy, or you know of somebody who was pregnant and ended up having their water break. How did it happen? When did it happen? Was it before they went to the hospital? I think that was one of my greatest fears, was what if my water breaks out in public, or worse, what if I'm at work and then that happens? So I'd be curious to know what was your experience. Now, I think I'm curious about this because the media portrays kind of like this is a sign that always happens to all women before they go into labor, but that's not always the case. And I want to mention that because for some women, their water does break during early labor, but for many it breaks when they're in active labor already at the hospital. So just make note of that. It can happen throughout any stage of your labor. And unfortunately, it's not 100% guarantee that it will happen to you before you go to the hospital, but it might. That's why you want to take note of those 3 mental notes and tell your doctor and call them to see if they're going to admit you. Fortunately, there is a second sign that is more of a sure thing and a great indicator that yes, in fact, you are in active labor. And this second sign is strong and frequent contractions. To help you determine if you have strong and frequent contractions, I recommend downloading the Full Term Contraction Timer app, and this is what I personally used. It was really helpful because it helps keep track of the 5-1-1 rule. Now, if you don't know what this is a rule of thumb or a guide to help us better time our contractions. And this way we know exactly when to head to the hospital. So let's talk about this further. How can this application help us keep track of it? The 5 refers to the frequency of your contractions. So you want each contraction to be happening about every 5 minutes or so. And to keep track of this, you'll want to count from the time one contraction starts to the time that the second contraction starts. And that should be around about every 5 minutes or so. This application will do all of the work for you, and it'll give you an average frequency of how often you're getting your contractions. So all you have to do is hit this start button and when your contraction starts, and then when it stops, hit it again. And so at the end, when you've tracked several contractions, it'll take the average, and on this third screen, you'll be able to see the average frequency. And you want it to be around 5 minutes, but it's not going to be exact because it's just a rule of thumb. So you want to have this number be anywhere between 2 minutes to 6 minutes. Because you also want to keep into account how far away is the hospital from you. Do you want to be more conservative and leave to the hospital when you're at that 5 to 6 minute mark, or the hospital's close by and you want to wait maybe 2 minutes or 3 minutes? Now, for the first number 1 in the 5-1-1 rule, that refers to the duration of each contraction, which means that your contractions should last about 1 minute each. Now, because this is a rule of thumb, it can be anywhere from 45 seconds to 1 minute and 30 seconds. Then that's a good indicator that it's time to head to the hospital. So for instance, on your application, if you were to hit the start button when your contraction starts, and then your contraction is going, and then all of a sudden it stops, you hit stop, and the time that contraction lasted is about 1 minute, that's when you want to head to the hospital. The final one in 5-1-1 refers to whether or not you have been having your contractions be like this for the last hour. So, have your contractions been coming about every 5 minutes or so? But remember, we said they can happen between 2 to 6 minutes. And has each contraction been lasting about a minute? But remember, we said it can be anywhere from 45 seconds to 1 minute and 30 seconds. If this is not the case, then that means you want to wait a little bit longer at home to see if your contractions begin to come a little bit more frequently and begin to take a little bit longer for each contraction. And if this is the case, that you're getting them more frequently in this time range and that they're lasting longer, then congratulations. This means that you are ready to meet your baby because most likely you're in active labor. Time to head on to the hospital. You should also note that your current contraction should be at least the same strength or a lot stronger than that last contraction you just had. So as time goes on, each contraction should feel a lot stronger and a lot more intense than your previous ones. If they do not feel this way, let's say for example, I have a contraction and it feels really strong, it takes my breath away, but then the next couple ones are really a lot less intense, then This may indicate that you're not in active labor and that you're still in early labor, because early labor is when our uterus is still trying to figure out that contraction pattern that becomes really rhythmic to produce those strong and very frequent contractions. In the future, I'll actually be making a video of the signs and symptoms of early labor so that you can get familiar with those in addition to the signs that we're talking about now for your active labor. So let's summarize this 511 rule, because not every woman's contractions will exhibit and demonstrate this exact pattern. So because of this, I recommend that you take a screenshot of this screen here, because this is what you ultimately want to aim for. I do recommend that you talk to your doctor about this so that they tell you when they expect you specifically to go to your hospital, especially if you have other conditions that could indicate you're in a higher risk pregnancy. Or ask them, is it okay for me to go through early labor at home and go to the hospital when I'm in active labor? When do you recommend that I go to the hospital? All these questions are great to ask them so that you know when it is that your hospital will admit you, because usually they'll admit you when you're dilated at least 6 centimeters. Before it used to be 4, but now most hospitals will admit you when you're at least 6 centimeters open when they check you. I want you to know that you can absolutely trust your instincts of when to go to the hospital. I know it can seem like a lot of information, especially if you're a first-time mom, but this is why I really recommend that you download that full-term contraction timer, because it'll do all of the work for you. You just should know what to look out for and what ranges of time, and you can compare it with that screenshot you took to make it a lot easier for you. You can even share this video with your family members who may also benefit from knowing this information so that they don't feel nervous about when they should be driving you to the hospital. Also, it's better to be safe than sorry. A lot of women have the concern that they're going to arrive to the hospital too early, and that is a very valid concern. That was mine as well, because we do know that if you labor at home as much as you can, that's going to decrease the time that you spend at the hospital, and therefore that's going to decrease the amount of unnecessary medical intervention. So I definitely get it, but I mean, what's the worst case scenario? You get to the hospital too early and they don't admit you because unfortunately you're not open or dilated at least 6 centimeters. Well, then in that case, maybe all you do is go to a nearby park, walk around the outskirts of the hospital, go and eat if they allow you to, or be essentially in the comfort of your own personal space without all that constant medical interruptions where you can't just breathe and be yourself. So remember, better to be safe than sorry. So if your doctor allows you to do early labor at home, and that's what makes you feel the most comfortable, to be in the comfort of your own space, then I say go for it, because if they allow you to, you can eat, you can relax, you can pace around your own comfortable environment. And then when your contraction starts to pick up, like the 511 rule, or your water breaks, that's when you know that it's time and your baby is coming very, very soon. Now you know the 2 signs that will help you determine if you're in active labor and when you should go to the hospital. But what about when you actually get to the hospital? What are 10 things that will help you cope with your contractions better? In my next video, I'll answer exactly that. I really can't wait to hear how your experience is and how everything goes for you on your trip to the hospital, how early labor went. So make sure to come back here and comment down below, because I'd really love to hear your story and share with each other how how everyone's went. Until next time, see you soon. In the meantime, you may be interested in watching any of these other videos.